Mayor of Kingstown season 4 is here. I'm not going to go episode by episode. I want to talk about the show in pretty high level, but I really want to tell you kind of why I'm losing interest in this show that I've really enjoyed most of the time and still consider to be above average. But I'm not like racing to see the next episode when it drops, and I'll get into why. Let me first begin by saying how much I really have enjoyed Mayor of Kingstown. I think season 1 is actually phenomenal. The prison riot, the context of the show, the things that it's bringing out about prison reform and the different issues with corruption, I think is a great topic. And I think at times this show has been fantastic. Other times the show just kind of goes on and on and on. And I also think the show is now suffering from a real moral conundrum that I'm not sure it can get itself out of. By far, the biggest issue right now is the fact that Kyle's headed to prison because he won't narc out a situation with Robert. Because at the end of season 3, if you remember on the bridge, Robert just started turning on civilians. Kyle ends up shooting Robert. But if he goes to court and outs Robert, Robert's going to be outing Mike and the whole nine things. So, I mean, look, here's the problem with Robert's character. He become a monster in the season 1, and we're still dealing with the fallout of protecting Robert. And I'm like, I get the elements to this to a certain extent, but it's sort of a house of cards that quote needs to fall. And I think this is part of the problem. And again, this is just the first layer of problems that we're now getting in season 4. In season 4, we get a brand new look at a brand new warden trying to deal with, the mayor and Kyle and different things that are asked of her. And Edie Falco is that mayor. And she is a villain right from the kind of get go. Like it is sort of like a thing that's in there. You don't even feel like you're attached to her at all in a positive way. I think that there are moments where you feel like her and Mike are going to work together, and then, of course, it turns sideways again and again and again. She has her own little group of toadies that are working with her because she has a long record of successes and she's been brought in for that. I think it was pretty early on in episode, maybe 2 or 3. It was clear that she is connected to all the stuff that's going on in Kingstown with this rise of the basically a Colombian drug cartels pushed up against Bunny. They bring in another character we'll get to in a moment. Like, all right, she's obviously clearly putting her finger on the scale for certain people and factions. So then they didn't really keep a mystery alive for very long with her character. So yeah, that's part of the problem. So here's our other big, real new character. Lenny James plays basically a crime boss out of Detroit. He's showing up apparently to give Bunny some help, mentor him into being this basically great drug kingpin way outside the scope of Kingstown. I have no idea why Bunny would believe any of this. And I also feel like Mike doesn't ever really react or do anything to kind of intercede. He just says, all right, well, it's another factor that Kingstown has to deal with. And everything he's done has turned to crap. Now, he has sacrificed people, and that's part of what gives him cover as far as being a duplicitous character and all this. But like right out of the place, it's like it's another unethical, immoral character in the grand scheme of things. We have this on again, off again. He doesn't speak English at first, but he really does. Superhero almost element of the Colombian point man, basically running all these different scenes. The weird thing is, do you know his name? If you don't have captions on, do you know his name? They like joke about him all the time. They joke about Kino following him around all the time. But he'll just walk into a scene, he'll kill somebody, whatever. And it fits for the show in a way. In other ways, I just don't care. I don't really. He's not villain enough to care, and he's also not. Well, you can't ignore him either. So it's like it's kind of a big quandary. Well, then we get the other element that is totally ruining the show. Now, Ian had tried to protect Robert by taking the serial killer guy with him to the house where this guy that was going to tattletale on Robert, and then the serial guy kills him. He ultimately has to kill the serial killer guy. So now Evelyn, who barely is in the show anymore, is working hard to get Robert and get Ian. And reality is everyone willing to fall on the altar for this Robert guy? Ian is now murdered another person. He took Robert out somewhere and Robert shoots another person and they had to go to okay, at some point the morality is completely void. The police are no different than the criminals. In fact, the police are worse because at least the criminals do have some codes of ethics that they kind of follow. That's not what I want to watch. That's not an interesting show to me. The balance of it all, the police being in a no-win situation makes more sense, but the police like quadrupling down or more on this corruption and cover up, that's not interesting at all. They're totally losing me on all of this. And really, the sad thing is they give Mike his little love interest, and they sort of have this thing going on with Kyle. Obviously, Callahan is kind of around, the guy that's in charge of the AN, the Aryan AB, the Aryan Brotherhood. I don't know. I feel like we're running in place, and then this episode that kind of culminates where Bunny is the target and Bunny gets hit and shot. Now Bunny's in a hospital. That is not what I want. Bunny is the best part of the show. Bunny has always been the best part of the show. Bunny and Mike going at each other, bickering and laughing together is always the best part of the show. I'm not getting any of that anymore. I'm not getting anything that I'm really enjoying about the show anymore. So look, I'm in it because I'm in it and I've enjoyed it. And as bad as I'm kind of complaining about the show, we're talking a like C plus level. We're not, B minus, C plus kind of like we're talking Midland now. We're talking like it's a five out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. Compare it should be a 7 or an 8, right? It's frustrating because this show does so many things right. Jeremy Renner's great. He is walking, talking Mike McLusky almost effortless at this point. Kyle's been given a lot of stuff to work with in this season. He's done really well. His character is clearly becoming a monster very slowly, very slowly. I like that part a lot. I'm sick of the Callahan thing. I'm sick of the guy who just literally, in this whole thing with the layers of corruption within the prison and the new warden. How does Mike and no one else just call Evelyn? And we're breaking the rules of what real life kind of feels like. It creates a contradiction to the show that we're actually watching. So I have done episode by episode. That's kind of why I watch an episode and I'm like, I kind of see where it's going. It's not really that interesting. It's sort of like, more of the same. And all this corruption thing and all that stuff is just like a big cloud distracting the show from being interesting, distracting everyone from, really good character development, stuff like that. And this Robert thing or whatever, it's they keep trying to keep it alive, and it's just been too long. So anyway, I don't know if you're still watching Mayor of Kingstown or not. I'm watching. I'm gonna watch the next episode. Maybe I'll jump right in and give a little bit of a more details, show more screens, things like that. But not what it was. I was chomping at the bit the first season or so, and now I'm like, oh yeah, I had the new episodes aired, and I watched it yet. So yeah, that's why they're losing me. That's why they're losing me. Feel free to let me know what you guys think about it. I am Pops.
Adios, amigo.